Welcome back. Now things are looking pretty cool. We can level up, and as we level up, we see our level up here in the HUD change. Goes from 1 to 2, which is great. Now we could continue testing that and go up to level 3, but we'll do plenty of testing throughout the course. We can also test in multiplayer. So we have our client here. See if I can actually get enough XP to level up. There we go, and it works on the client. So things are working there, but usually a level up is accompanied by some dramatic effects, some sound, some particles. We need more than just this number changing. That's barely even noticeable. We need something better than that. So we'll start with a particle effect, but we also want to show something in the HUD that lets us know that we've leveled up and what level we've reached. So first things first, we need a particle effect. Let's go into our assets folder, into effects. Notice there's a level up folder, and we can take a look at this system. Now here's what it looks like. Actually looks pretty amazing. We have some sparkles, we have some gold kind of vapor smoke looking stuff. I'd like to spawn this, and I'd like to spawn it at the location of our character. So that's what we're going to start out with. So I'm going to close the editor. I'm going to go into my character class. So I'm going to go ahead and just close all tabs and go into public, character, and we'll just put it in aura character. Aura character is the only character that will level up in this game. And I'm just going to go ahead and put a T-object pointer here for a Niagara component. So we'll just have this Niagara component as a component on the character, and then we can activate it every time we level up. So we'll call this level up Niagara component. And I'd like to be able to see it and set its Niagara system in the editor. And since it's a component, we give it visible anywhere. I'm going to make it blueprint read only, and we'll go ahead and create this in the constructor. So up in the constructor, at the very top, I'm going to say level up Niagara component equals, we're going to use create default subobject with Niagara component, and I'm going to just call this level up Niagara component. Now I'm going to need to include Niagara component, and that's simply going to be include Niagara component .h. And I'm going to go ahead and attach this straight to Aura's root component. So we'll take level up Niagara component, call setup attachment, and get root component. Now we don't want this activated automatically, so there's a variable we can set on Niagara components so they don't automatically activate. So we're going to take our component, level up Niagara component, and set that boolean. It's called be auto activate. We're going to set that to false. So we have to activate this, and we'll do that every time we level up. So let's go ahead and do that in our level up function. So here it is, it's level up implementation. But here's the thing, level up implementation is only called on the server, right? And that's okay in a single player game, but we're going to want this spawned everywhere. I'd like everyone to see when everyone levels up. So for that reason, we should make a multicast RPC. So here in Aura character, in the private section, I'm just going to make a little void function called level up particles. And it's going to be a multicast, so I'm going to call it multicast level up particles actually. And it can be a const function, and we'll make it a u function with net multicast reliable. You can make it unreliable, but I'd like it to be reliable. I'm going to generate a definition, and it has to have implementation in it. And we're going to call this multicast level up particles in our implementation of the level up function right here, level up implementation. We'll just call our net multicast, and we'll handle this here in the net multicast, which I'm going to cut and move up to just beneath level up implementation. Okay, so we have our level up Niagara component. We'll check it. So we'll use isValid level up Niagara component, and we'll take level up Niagara component and activate it. We can use activate, passing in a Boolean for be reset, and we can pass in true to reset it. So with that, we can set the Niagara component's Niagara system and see what happens when we level up. I'm going to go ahead and start in debug mode. Okay, so I forgot to forward declare my Niagara component. Let's go ahead and just do that real quick. I'm going to go up to the top, forward declare Niagara component there, and try again. Okay, so I can open up Aura and set her Niagara system on the Niagara component by going to Blueprints, Character, opening Aura, BP Aura Character, and selecting Level Up Niagara component. And for the Niagara system asset, I can search for Level Up and set that here. Now, it's not going to activate by default as we disabled auto activate, but once we level up, we should see it. So I'm going to save all and play test and just kill 2 goblins. There's 1. And there's 2. Now, this looks great, but it's oriented to Aura. It's not oriented toward the camera or toward the screen, which is okay, but I would really like to control its orientation. Let's see what happens if Aura's facing this way. Yeah, so, it looks good, but I'd like it always facing the screen. So I'm going to go back and make that happen. Now, I'm going to basically turn this to face the camera. So I can make a const f vector for the camera location. And we need the camera location, but notice that I have no camera component. That's because my camera was set up in Blueprint. So now that I need the camera in C++, I'm going to need to move that camera component into C++ instead. So what I can do is make that a C++ variable now, right here in my private section. And I'll go ahead and make my camera spring arm a C++ variable as well. So I'm going to make a t-object pointer of type uCameraComponent. I'm going to forward declare it all the way up at the top with class uCameraComponent. While I'm here, I'm going to forward declare uSpringArmComponent as well. And I'll make my variable for it, and I'm going to call this top-down camera component. It's going to be visible anywhere, so I'll give it a U property with visible anywhere. And I'll go ahead and make another t-object pointer for the spring arm component. And I'm going to call this camera boom. It's also going to be visible anywhere. Now I'm going to have to go ahead and set it up in the constructor. And these will be first before our Niagara component even. So first I'm going to construct the camera boom. I'm going to say camera boom. We're going to use create default subobject. It's going to be a uSpringArm component. I'm going to call it camera boom. I got my auto include for spring arm component here, and I'm going to attach it to the root. So camera boom, set up attachment, get root component. Now I'm going to also set some properties on it, such as set using absolute rotation. I don't want it to rotate when the character does. I'm going to use absolute rotation. We'll adjust its target arm length and its rotation in the blueprint. But I do want to take camera boom and set the Boolean be do collision test to false. That way we won't even try to do the collision test. Now let's create our camera component. So top-down camera component equals create default subobject using uCameraComponent. We'll call it top-down camera component. And I'm going to attach it to the camera boom. So we're going to say top-down camera component, setup attachment, setting it up to attach to the camera boom, and I'm going to use spring arm component socket name, and we'll attach to the end socket there. Top-down camera component also has use pawn control rotation. I'm going to set that to false. Okay, so now we have a camera boom and a top-down camera component. We're going to need to set that up, and I'm going to go ahead and make sure we're using that in Blueprint before going to my level up particles and using my camera and all that stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and run in debug mode, as we got some things we need to do now. All right, so opening up Aura Character, we're going to have 2 cameras and 2 spring arms now, and we can probably see them in the viewport. Sure enough, we do. Now, first of all, before I go and delete my camera and spring arm that I made in Blueprint, I'm going to want this box component attached to my other spring arm. So that's going to be the one called Camera Boom. So I'm going to take my box component and drag it onto Camera Boom so it's attached to that one. And I'm also going to go ahead and hit the curved arrow on the box for the location and the rotation and the scale for that matter, as I just want to adjust those from their defaults. But now my camera and spring arm that I had before can go away. I'm going to delete the camera and delete the spring arm, and now we have our new camera and spring arm. Now I'm going to take this camera boom and adjust its target arm length. I'll put it up to about 800. And I believe I had my rotation at about 45 degrees. I'm going to set snapping to 45 to make this easy and change its rotation to 45. It's actually negative 45 for its absolute rotation in the Y. And then I can take this box component and bring it down to about there. So now I have my C++ variables that I'm using. Let's just make sure nothing else breaks by testing in the game. It looks okay. Let's go into this area, make sure that our fade actors are fading out. Yeah, these all look okay. Now we have our camera and spring arm in C++. Okay, that's all I needed, because now I can orient my level up Niagara component towards the camera. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I want to get my camera's location. That's going to be a local const f vector called camera location. And I can take my top-down camera component and call get component location. Now I can also take my level up Niagara component and get its component location. So I'm going to do that, const f vector. I'm going to call this Niagara system location. And I'm going to get my level up Niagara component. And on this one, call get component location. And then I can make a rotator for the rotation from the Niagara system to the camera. And I can get that from a vector that goes from the Niagara system to the camera. That vector would be camera location minus Niagara system location. And if I wrap this subtraction in parentheses, this returns a vector. And from this vector, I can call rotation to get a rotator. And I can store this in a const local rotator. And I'll call this to camera rotation. Now that I have that rotation, I can set the world rotation of level up Niagara component. So I can take it, level up Niagara component, and call set world rotation, and pass in to camera rotation. And with that, my Niagara component should be rotated toward the camera. Let's test that theory. So I'm going to level up by killing 2 goblins. 1 to go. And there it is, and it looks like it was oriented correctly. Now this is a net multicast, and it's always oriented towards the camera, but it's oriented towards this character's camera. So let's see how this looks in multiplayer. I'm going to press play and level up on a client, but I'm going to keep my eye on the client on the server's machine and see what it looks like here. Not too bad. Looks like it looks just fine, so this is going to work. Let's try this in a play as client situation. I'm just going to full screen it here. Looks fine. And let's take a look at one client from another client's perspective as they level up. And it looks great. Okay, I'm going to set it back to play as listen server, set the number of players to 1, and we're now playing a Niagara particle system, or spawning one, when we level up. So we're one step closer to having a nice effect. I think it looks really, really good. Now, as we level up, I noticed that my system was turning with my character. So if I level up and then I run around, notice that that particle system is kind of rotating along with me. So that's something that you may be okay with. It may be something you're not okay with. Let's see if I can turn. Yeah, so actually I'm kind of okay with that. I think I actually like it, so I'm just going to leave it as is. Awesome. So excellent job. We'll continue making leveling up feel more epic in the next video. I'll see you soon.